What's going on, YouTube? On this video, I'm going to talk about a continuation from my previous video of how I got two properties in 18 months. I was talking about how I doubled my salary within 4 years. That was getting from 45,000 K a year in 2013 to 90K plus in 2017. So in this video, I want to talk about how you could do something similar at your company. Without further ado, let's get this rolling. Alright guys, so for this video, before we start, I want to let you know that any information I provide on these videos and all my other videos is for entertainment purposes only. This is not financial advice, this is not life advice. This is what I work for me. Each individual is different, therefore what I do might not work for you. You need to find your own ways to make things work for you, but by all means go ahead, use the information I provide you. This is just me putting it out there on how I did it and what knowledge I gained from various places and how I got there. So just be aware of that. Not everything works for everyone. We are all different human beings, so be mindful of that when you take most of this information on board. So with that out of the way, let's get on this. So how did I get from a measly $45,000 a year in 2013 to 90K plus in 2017? I will start from when I got the job. So when I got the job, I did have a little bit of experience in freight forwarding. I worked in a company in Melbourne dealing with the imports, and then when I moved to Sydney, I decided to get this job, and this was my second job. The first one didn't really work out, which is another story. I'm going to leave it for another video so that I can keep this short as possible. In January of 2013, I got into this job. I went for the interview, and the way I approached this job was, if I get the position, I'm happy to start as a junior salary. Based on my performance, I'm happy to keep getting my salary moving up the ladder, provided that I create value and I make sure that I am capable of what I needed to do for that job. So the managing directors in the company agreed with that, and then I started 7th of January 2013. I started the position as a junior import operations or import operator. And my job, majority of it was data entry, dealing with emails, paperwork, requesting paperwork for customs clearance, things like that. So it was a very, I guess, monotonous job because very repetitive. It's the same thing. So I wanted to make it as interesting as possible for me at the time. So what I did was I went through all my work and I started building a workflow for my tasks. Then I created draft emails on emails that it's like FAQs, but more about requesting information. So there was information that I continually asked from customers on a regular basis for their shipments. So what I did was I created, I could say, a template that I can chop and change the way I needed to ask the same questions and ask the same information. So that sped up my process. So the previous people used to type every single email, whereas I had the body of the email for requesting information. Obviously, I would customize it. I would personalize it for each of the customers. I would add more information on what we have discussed about them, and add a few other things to make it more personal for that particular customer. But the main purpose of the email and the main information that I'm after was for the draft, and that sped up the process. And I made them email signatures. So all I had to do was drop down, select the signature, bang, click that, and I send it out within 30 seconds, 45 seconds, and that email's done. So in that instance, the lesson there was that I created methods of speeding up my regular job and my regular duties and responsibilities. So everything I did there, pretty much I found ways to make it faster or efficient without cutting corners. Now, there were things that I may have cut corners, and then I was questioned by the customs broker, and they weren't really happy with things in terms of as in how I ask for information, not the actual job. I need to stress that because it's a very important job that I did and the customs brokers did. So it was not the actual job, but the method I did it was I was probably taking a shortcut, and you start, I guess, finding the differentiation between different people on how different characters kind of do things. So there's people who think this is a better way, and another person might think this is a better way. So there were places where that we didn't, kind of synergize, I guess. Those places. Now being where I am today, I would have had better ways to kind of deal with them. That's for another day. However, so one of the first thing I did was actually find ways to make my day more efficient by finding faster ways and more efficient ways to take do my duties and responsibilities. Now, the way I was able to do this was I at the start of my job, I asked the questions, okay, what are my duties? What are my responsibilities? What do I need to do on a daily basis? That way, when I'm starting to set up my processes, I know what to do. So when I come in the morning, I know what to do. I don't sit around, having a conversation and then like spend another half an hour, 45 minutes working out what's more important. When I came in, I would go make myself a coffee, sit down, and I get to work. I know exactly what I need to do. I browse through the emails, see whether there's anything urgent, and then I get onto it. And then I would hammer out everything that's needed, and then I'll be out of my duties and responsibilities. So that opened up space for me to do other things. Now, this is where I guess now we come to the important aspects. Because of my efficiencies, what happened was the day opened up heavily. I would say 1/4 quarter of the day was now open for me to do other things. So one of the next things I did was cost cutting. My goal was to reduce the consumption of different things, and reduce the expenses of the company. So the first thing what I noticed was we were printing every single email. This was in 2013, where yes, we had to print most of the information, but I realized that every week we were going through 14 to 20 reams of paper, and it seemed like a lot of waste, because what happens is then that documentation gets filed away, and then you need another space for those files to sit around for God knows, I think it was 7 years or something like that. So what I did was I realized that the software we were using actually has a archiving method. So not only does the documentation go into this, so the shipment would have its own shipment job, and in that job there was a section where you could put all the documentation digitally. Not only did this make the office more efficient, because we used to have a physical folder, and when I say a physical folder, a physical cardboard folder with paperwork in there, and then that folder was getting traveled around the office depending on who was doing what on that particular shipment. Thought it was a waste of time. I didn't want to be getting up looking for shipments when the folder was not on my desk. I realized that this opening was there. So what I did was I researched the software a bit deeper to see how I could use this particular, I guess, tool in this software for our benefit. So once I got the understanding, at one of the weekly staff meetings, I raised the point going, hey, if we use this documentation, we can actually reduce the amount of paper that we will be printing on. So that was one place where we went down from 20 or 30 reams of paper to probably 5. So there was like a massive decrease in the requirement for paper. So that was a point where I brought value to the company. So that brings me to the next point, which is find ways to bring value to the company. The first was make your job efficient enough that you have more time to take on more responsibilities at the position you are in. And then the second one now is bringing value to the company. So I started bringing value to the company by reducing the costs of the company at the moment. Then I went on to the next stage, which was because of the amount of time that was left. What I decided to do was I started looking at how to bring in more sales, and also what I can do to tweak our costs involved with our current customers. So that was a two-pronged approach. Number one was I would explore the operation for the current customers, see whether there was an opportunity to sell another product or added value to the product which we can charge for. Now, I can't recall where I learned this, but this was not like automatically, hey, guess what, this is what I should do. I was reading something somewhere, or I was watching a YouTube video where they found out that rather than acquiring a new customer, it was actually more cost efficient to see what products you can sell to the current existing customers. Now, I can't recall where I learned that, but that once I learned that, that is one of the key things that I started doing. I looked at our top 15 customers, and then I looked into the operation to see whether we could do local logistics, whether there's any further international logistics that was available. And then I would approach them and say, hey, I noticed that you guys have shipments coming in from this country. We are only doing country A, but what about country B and C? How does those work? So depending on the shipment terms and things like that, it could be that it was possible for us to bring more value to to the particular customer, in turn bring more revenue into the business. So that was the second way I brought in value. So the first way I brought in value for the company was reducing the costs. There was other minor things that I did in the company, which I shared with the accounts team as well, and I said, hey, we can do this and this. We would share ideas, and then we would go from there. So number one was reducing the costs in the company currently. And oh yeah, I actually did suggest that it was a waste of time that we get paid overtime, because it was quite alien to me that when we were paid a salary, that if we went past the 38 hours, we were then getting paid overtime. It sounds very odd that I actually volunteered to say that we shouldn't get paid overtime, but I realized that that's not right. And obviously, there was a reason behind it. One was that I wanted to stay back and improve myself and bring more value to the company. not for the monetary policies or the require like getting paid more. It was actually I got excited by being able to, you know, be in a company where I could actually build it up to be a better company than it was before. I mean, there's a saying, always leave something better than you found it, and this was one of my opportunities to do that. So that was another thing. I actually told management that we are on a salary. We shouldn't be having to, get paid overtime just because we stay back. Because if we are not efficient enough to do our job within the 38 hours allocated in the week, obviously we shouldn't be doing that job. That was my thought process. So coming back to the point, the second point was bringing value by approaching the current customers and then deciding on whether we can sell more products to them. And then on the other prong of that particular approach was bringing in new clients. So the way I did that was I had knowledge from 2010, where I built a website, where I actually built three different projects that I had. One was a freight company or a freight business called Pickups Online. The second was called Freight Couriers Online, and the third one, which came in actually in 2015, so that didn't exist at the time. So it was Pickups Online and Freight Couriers Online, which I was trying to build a company that could deal with small parcels. So in 2000, I'm pretty sure it was 2009 or maybe 2008. I can't remember. Maybe 2009. It's a bit of a blur at the moment. I need to refresh myself before I do that. But anyway, in 2009, let's say that I wanted to find a way, because I was reading an article where they were saying how there's an excess of online shopping happening, and the online retailers are now posting items, and Australia Post at the time was not part of Star Trek Express, or vice versa. Star Trek was not part of Australia Post. So at that time, there was not many companies that would deal with smaller businesses sending parcels. There was Tall IPEC and things like that, but they needed larger volume for you to be a customer of them. Anyway, I built that website. So to do that website, I did a lot of SEO training and things like that. So from that, I had a bit of knowledge. I would say not much at all, but a bit of knowledge on how to deal with SEO. So when I was in this particular company doing freight forwarding, one of the ways I wanted to bring in more customers was through Google. So what I did was I looked at the current website, which was a bit dated. So I decided to come up with a web designer to redo the website, make it a bit more refreshing, maybe make it a bit more easier on the eye. And there was, at the time, if I recall correctly, there was the 2/3 rule on a website, where people see there's a section that people would straight away their eyes go to, and that's where you need to have all the catching information and things like that. There was a lot of in-depth things that I dealt with, and I was just referring to the notes that I had. I've got books and books of notes that I have in regards to this information. Anyway, so the third approach was bringing in more sales, and the way I did that was through the website, building the website, working on with the web developers to improve on SEO, and then in turn finding a method to bring in more customers. So building a sales funnel. So I started learning about sales and sales funnels. So during my lunch break, I would go sit down with my lunch and put my headphones on and listen to different sales seminars on YouTube. And I also listen to Jordan Belfort and his straight line. I think it's a straight line method, it's called. I can still recall the three key things that he talked talks about, which is being sharp as a tack, enthusiastic as hell, and make sure that you have the knowledge to actually sell the product. So I can still remember that part. And then he was talking about the 4 C's, which is clarity, commitment, consistency, and some there was 4 C's. It was called the 4 C's. Clarity, conviction, commitment, and consistency. That's it. So that you needed the 4 C's to be in sales. So that's just a tidbit. Anyway, so having all that and using my time, my personal time, to improve my skills. So while I was trying to improve or bring more value to the company through sales, in this the third point, I was improving my skills to be able to provide that value to the company. So I didn't wait for the company to say, "Hey, Lion, you need to do this course so that we can pay you more." It was like I didn't even expect a higher salary at the time. It was just like, if I learn these skills, at some stage I will be able to sell, and in turn I will be able to make money. It was not even at that point, I was not thinking about that particular job and going, "Oh, if I sell, that means the management will see that I sold, therefore they're going to pay me." No, it was, I would learn these skills, and someday that these skills will be useful for me to then in turn make more money down the road. So these approaches were coming up until about 2015. So now in 2013, I was on 45K. 3 months down the track, I went to 50K. 2014, with the value that I brought to the company, my salary went up to, I believe it was 55 or maybe 60,000. That was 2014. 2015, I think I got another salary increase to 65,000, I believe. And then in 2015, what changed was being able to create more value by bringing in more sales. There was more sales coming in, new customers coming in, new shipments coming in. And it was coming to a point where my day was getting filled up with answering phone calls with sales queries. So I realized that at the time, all they were doing was they just wanted a rough estimate of how much it would cost to bring in a pallet of, I don't know, candles or napkins. Just any random thing that someone wants to start a business, an importing business in the back of their shed, and they just need to have a rough idea of how much shipping was going to cost. And the number of calls I was getting for those just getting a rough cost was just taking up way too much of my time. So at that time, I suggested to my managing director, "Hey, what if we build an app that I spend probably 5 hours a week or 5 hours a month uploading all the pricing to the back end of the app, and then on the front of the app, the customers just download that app. It can be a web app. Then all they have to do is just go to the website, and then they punch in their details, and we can make that a funneling system as well, because they need to enter their email and a valid phone number with a name to get the actual pricing." And in turn, what will happen is, not only do we collect the information for us to use that to further clarify whether this is a lead that we need to pursue, or whether this is a lead that just is shopping around, and also the customer gets the information they need in terms of rough pricing, or like, a ballpark figure that they can work on. So, and my director agreed, like, that was a great idea. So what I did was, I worked with a developer, an app developer. It cost us, I think it was about $5,000 all up to build this app. And then, yeah, so that again brought my time back a fair bit for me to further work on other things. And the next thing I worked on was reducing the cost for the current customers. So I looked into shopping around for sea freight. I looked into shopping around for local container logistics and transport, and I started reducing costs on that side. I found there was some transport companies that were working in certain areas where their costs were a lot, I would say, one third of the single transport company we were using for pretty much everything. They were the one hit wonder that we used for whether it was to the south side, the north side, the east side. It was one company. Yes, it was a one stop shop, but the prices were ridiculous. So by breaking it down, what I did was I found 3 or 4 transport companies, and then I built an Excel pricing calculator where I put the postcode of where it was, and this pricing calculator, mind you, all the formulas that I needed to learn for this particular costing calculator, I went home and I did it on my spare time, because I realized that if I learned this is gonna help me grow my knowledge on how to build, Excel calculators, and how to use Excel sheets, I guess. So I watched YouTube. I found ways to build this calculator where when I put the postcode, it'll tell me the most economical option, and not only that, which transport company to use out of the 3 or 4 transport companies we had. Sped up the process. Every time someone goes, hey, which transport company do I use? I ask for the postcode, type it in, bang, I tell, all right, use, I don't know, it was something called TRG or something, maybe, I don't know, or Swift. There was all these other transport companies. I'll be like, yep, use company A, and or use company B. And then what happened was the calculator was a lot more polished. I tested it out various ways. I stress tested it. I made sure that everything worked perfectly. And once I knew it was a perfect system, it was put in a common drive that everyone who wanted to access it had access for it. So brought value again. Not only did I reduce my time spent on looking for pricing, I reduced the entire office's time. Now imagine 15 minutes that I saved per person per day, and let's say there was only 4 people, I saved them 15 minutes. That's an hour a day. 5 days, 5 hours. You work that out. Like, let's say people were getting paid $30 an hour. I have now reduced the costs of the company by 150. Is that 150? Yeah, $150 per day. That's $600 a month, and so 6,000, so roughly $7,000 a year has been saved for the company if it was only 15 minutes by me creating that particular Excel sheet. Now imagine that $7,000 seems like a small amount, but over time, 10 years, that's 70 grand. That is, so every 10 years someone's annual salary has been saved because of my Excel sheet. That's how you bring value to a company. So that was in 2015. I'm just seeing the time, it's 27 minutes and counting, so I want to wrap this up. So one was reducing the costs for the company. 2 was improving my own skills, and then finding ways to bring in more sales for the company, whether it be with your current customers or whether it be new customers. And 3 is making your operations efficient, so not only you but the rest of your team becomes efficient, and that saves money through wages. There was a big project that I did where I used the second tip that I said, where I found one of our customers that was exporting to New Zealand, and that was the golden nugget of all the things that I did, which was they were exporting products to New Zealand, and at the time we didn't have that particular operation under our wing. It was through a multinational company somewhere else. I found a way to reduce the cost for the client by 2/3. So the cost was only 1/3. They were paying $1,200 per container or $1,500 per container, if I recall correctly. And I reduced it down to $500 a container, and we were still making money off that as well. So what that project did was bring in roughly $250,000, $250,000 a year for the particular company that I work for. So within 4 years, that company would have made $1 million because I explored that option. Now think about that for value. So this is why my salary went from $45,000 to $90,000 within 4 years, because I kept attacking, looking for ways, looking for avenues to improve not only the quality of the services we were providing to our customers, what additional services we can provide, how we can bring in more customers, making my duties and responsibilities more efficient and streamlined, and then last of all, improving my personal skills in sales, communication, dealing with the difficult challenges, and overall improving my abilities and knowledge. So when you're looking at your company, when you're looking at your current position, if you want to find how you can potentially increase your current salary, first off, have a conversation with your direct superior, whoever it is, whether it's your team leader, whether it's your manager, whether it's the managing director that you're reporting to. Speak to your direct report, your direct report above you, and ask them, hey, if I am to get paid more, what skills or what do I need to bring to the table? And have that conversation and make sure that you have a clear outline of what you need to do. And once you speak to your manager about that, then work on those skills and have regular meetings with your manager and try to work out a plan on, getting to the next level. So that's probably what I can give you in terms of advice for you, but this is all up to you. This was my story, and hope this information was useful for you. There was something that you could actually take from this video. Thank you so much for watching the whole video. It was a fairly long video. If you did enjoy the content, I would love for you to tap that like button, subscribe for more videos like this, and share this video with your friends and family if you think that this will be useful for them. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.